Bangladesh believes in peaceful coexistence but always ready to protect its sovereignty from any aggression, says Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in an address on the occasion of Armed Forces Day.
প্রতিবেশী সকল রাষ্ট্রের সঙ্গে শান্তিপূর্ণ সহাবস্থানে আমরা বিশ্বাসী। তবে যে কোনো আগ্রাসী আক্রমণ থেকে দেশের সার্বভৌমত্ব রক্ষার জন্য আমরা সদা প্রস্তুত ও দৃঢ় সংকল্পবদ্ধ।
President and Prime Minister pay tribute to members of armed forces who sacrificed their lives in liberation war. "38 span of Podda Bridge installed, marking 5,700 meters of the bridge visible, all spans to be installed before Victory Day. Politics of vengeance not conducive to democracy, and Awami League never does so, says Obaidul Qadir. The government implementing a 30-year master plan for modernizing Bangladesh Railway, costing 5.5 lakh crore taka. United Nations calls for ceasefire in Ethiopia. And more than 2 lakh people in the United States are newly infected with corona. Pfizer applies for approval of vaccine. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to News at 10 on BTV, BTV World and BTV Chattogram Center. I'm Shungit Ahmed with you tonight. Those were the headlines, and now on to the rest of the news. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina expected the armed forces to earn enhanced professional expertise to contribute more to nation-building campaign, being imbued with the patriotic spirit as it emerged through the process of 1971 Liberation War. The armed forces that emerged on a smaller scale in the process of Liberation War today became a gigantic institution, the Premier said in a nationwide televised address on the occasion of the Armed Forces Day 2020. In her early, nearly 13-minute speech, Sheikh Hasina listed elaborately the armed forces' role in different difficult situations in the country and troubled regions abroad as a major stakeholder of UN Blue Helmet missions over the years and its current response in combating the COVID-19 pandemic. The Premier said Bangladesh always believes in peaceful coexistence with all neighbours, but it is also ever ready to protect its sovereignty from any aggressive attack.
জাতির পিতা প্রবর্তিত সকলের সাথে বন্ধুত্ব, কারোর সাথে বরিতা নয়, এই মূল মন্ত্র দ্বারা আমাদের বৈদেশিক নীতিমালা পরিচালিত। প্রতিবেশী সকল রাষ্ট্রের সঙ্গে শান্তিপূর্ণ সহাবস্থানে আমরা বিশ্বাসী। তবে যে কোনো আগ্রাসী আক্রমণ থেকে দেশের সার্বভৌমত্ব রক্ষার জন্য আমরা সদা প্রস্তুত ও দৃঢ় সংকল্পবদ্ধ। বিগত এক দশকে আমরা সশস্ত্র বাহিনীর প্রতিটি শাখাকে আধুনিক সমরাস্ত্র এবং উপকরণ দ্বারা সমৃদ্ধ করেছি। আমি দৃঢ়তার সঙ্গে বলতে চাই, আমাদের সরকার আমলে সশস্ত্র বাহিনীর যতটা আধুনিকায়ন হয়েছে, অতীতে অন্য কোনো সময়ে তা হয়নি। আজ স্বাধীনতার সুবর্ণ জয়ন্তী লগ্নে জাতির পিতা প্রণীত জাতীয় প্রতিরক্ষা নীতির শক্ত ভিত্তির উপর দাঁড়িয়ে থাকা বাংলাদেশ সশস্ত্র বাহিনীর পেশাদারিত্ব এবং কর্মদক্ষতা দেশের গণ্ডি পেরিয়ে সারা বিশ্বে ছড়িয়ে পড়েছে। করোনা ভাইরাসের মহামারীর মধ্যে অনেক উন্নত উদীয়মান অর্থনীতি দেশ যখন ঋণাত্মক প্রবৃদ্ধির মুখে পড়েছে, তখনও আমাদের প্রবৃদ্ধি 5.24% হারে বৃদ্ধি পেয়েছে। আমাদের প্রবাসী আয়, কৃষি উৎপাদন এবং রপ্তানি বাণিজ্য ঘুরে দাঁড়িয়েছে। বৈদেশিক মুদ্রা রিজার্ভ 41 বিলিয়ন মার্কিন ডলার ছাড়িয়ে গেছে। এমত অবস্থায় স্বাস্থ্যবিধি মেনে আমাদের অর্থনৈতিক কর্মকাণ্ড এগিয়ে নিতে হবে। ইনশাআল্লাহ আমরা জাতির পিতার স্বপ্নের ক্ষুধা, দারিদ্র, নিরক্ষরতা মুক্ত অসাম্প্রদায়িক সোনার বাংলাদেশ প্রতিষ্ঠা করবই।
On the occasion of the Armed Forces Day, Chief of Army Staff General Aziz Ahmed, Chief of Naval Staff Admiral M. Shaheen Iqbal and Chief of Air Staff Air Chief Marshal Moshiuzzamani Serniabad paid a courtesy call on President Mohammad Abdul Hamid at Bongo Bhavan this evening. In a briefing, the President's Press Secretary Mohammad Join Al-Abidin told that during the meeting, the chiefs of the three services apprised the President of overall activities of the Army, Navy and Air Force. They also highlighted their various activities, including raising awareness to check the corona pandemic. President Mohammad Abdul Hamid highlighted the contribution of the armed forces in the Great Liberation War of the country. The President said the members of the armed forces are contributing to the development of the country and also brightening the image of Bangladesh abroad through their activities. Appreciating the role of the armed forces in checking the corona pandemic, the President expressed hope that they would continue their efforts in future. The President's Office Secretary Shampod Borua, Military Secretary Major General S.M. Shamimuzzaman and Secretary attached to the President's Office Mohammad Wahidul Islam Khan were present. Later, the President Mohammad Abdul Hamid signed the Visitors Book on the occasion of the Armed Forces Day. Chiefs of the three services paid a courtesy call on Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina at Gano Bhavan in Dhaka today on the occasion of the Armed Forces Day 2020. Prime Minister's Deputy Press Secretary Hassan Jahid Tushar said the Prime Minister greeted all the members of the armed forces and their family members on the occasion. Sheikh Hasina said the armed forces, which started its journey through the War of Liberation in 1971, have a lot of prideful contribution in tackling different natural calamities and facing the ongoing COVID-19 outbreak. The Premier thanked the members of the Army, Navy and Air Force for their humanitarian works, evacuating various emergency patients and foreign returnees from their respective forces' position in the corona period. Sheikh Hasina said the government in the last 12 years has taken all necessary steps to develop the Bangladesh Armed Forces capable enough to face the geopolitical and military challenges of the 21st century at present. During the meeting, the three chiefs, Chief of Army Staff General Aziz Ahmed, Chief of Naval Staff Admiral M. Shaheen Iqbal and Chief of Air Staff Air Chief Marshal Moshiuzzamani Serniabad apprised the Premier of different welfare activities and pragmatic steps undertaken by their respective forces. They thanked the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina for her role in the development of the Bangladesh Armed Forces in the last 12 years of the Awami League government. The Prime Minister's Defence and Security Advisor, Major General Retired Tariq Ahmed Siddique, Principal Staff Officer of the Armed Forces Division, Lieutenant General Mohammad Mahfuzur Rahman and Prime Minister's Military Secretary, Major General Naqib Ahmed Chaudhry were present. Marking the Armed Forces Day, President and Prime Minister paid homage to the memories of the members of the armed forces who sacrificed their lives in the Great Liberation War of Bangladesh. On behalf of President and Prime Minister, their military secretaries paid homage by placing wreaths at the Shikha Anirban at Dhaka Cantonment in the morning. Later, Army Chief General Aziz Ahmed, Naval Chief Admiral Mohammad Shaheen Iqbal and Air Force Chief Air Chief Marshal Moshiuzzamani Serniabad paid tributes at the Shikha Anirban by placing wreaths in unison on behalf of their respective forces. This year's Armed Forces Day is being celebrated on a limited scale due to the coronavirus outbreak. The 38th span of the Podda Bridge has been installed today. The 38th span was put on the pillars number 1 and 2 at Mawa Point. With the installation of the span, the 5,700 meters of the Podda Bridge became visible. Authority of the Podda Multipurpose Bridge said all spans of 6.15 kilometer long bridge will be installed before Victory Day. After a long period of the independence, dreams of the inhabitants of Bhoynagar, Abhayanagar Upazila under Joshua district is going to be fulfilled. The 750-meter-long bridge on the Bhairab River will be opened for traffic tomorrow. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina will open the bridge through video conference. In the meantime, all preparations have been already completed. With the opening of this bridge, constructed at a cost of nearly 93 crore taka, the road links will be easier for the people of Joshore, Norail and Khulna districts. Awami League General Secretary and Road, Transport and Bridges Minister Obaidul Qadir has said Awami League never do politics of vengeance, as it is not good for democracy. Obaidul Qadir made the remarks while inaugurating BRTC double-decker bus service on Mirpur-Narayanganj route through video conference from his official residence in the capital this morning. The Awami League General Secretary said BNP is far away from democracy and its role is very limited to advance democracy, although it always talks about democracy by mouth. BNP takes part in the election to make polls questionable, he added.
সমালোচনা করলে গুম করা হয় এমন কোনো তথ্য প্রমাণ কি আছে আপনাদের কাছে এ ধরনের বিভ্রান্তিকর তথ্য পরিবেশন পরিহার করার জন্য অনুরোধ করছি এতে জনগণের মাঝে বিভ্রান্তি ছড়ানো হচ্ছে এদেশের রাজনীতির সন্ত্রাস নির্ভরতা ষড়যন্ত্র আর হত্যা রাজনীতির জনক বিএনপি যা বকুল সাহেব বলছেন সরকার নাকি প্রতিশোধ পরায়ণ হয়ে উঠেছে আওয়ামী লীগ সবসময় জনগণের সাথে ছিল এবং আছে আমাদের বিরুদ্ধে যে অন্যায় করা হয়েছিল আমরা তার বিচার জনগণের কাছে চেয়েছি সমালোচনা রুখতে নাকি সরকার বিরোধীদের গুম করছে প্রতিদিন সামাজিক যোগাযোগ মাধ্যমে অবিরত মিথ্যাচার আর গুজব ছড়ানো হচ্ছে পত্রপত্রিকা টকশোতে সরকার বিরোধী বক্তব্য উপস্থাপন করা হচ্ছে কই সরকার কার বিরুদ্ধে ব্যবস্থা নিচ্ছে কাকে জেলে যেতে হয়েছে আওয়ামী লীগ পরমত সহিষ্ণু দল সমালোচনাকে ভয় পায় না গঠনমূলক সমালোচনা থেকে শুদ্ধ হওয়ার সৎসাহস আওয়ামী লীগের আছে
The Road Transport and Bridges Minister has directed related concern to ensure that unskilled drivers should not sit in the driving seat, saying for every staff of the bus will be wearing a fixed dress will be mandatory.
নজর দিতে হবে সেবার মান দক্ষতা ব্যবস্থাপনা উন্নয়নের পাশাপাশি বিভিন্ন সেবায় প্রযুক্তির ব্যবহার বাড়ালে স্বচ্ছতা নিশ্চিত করা গেলে বিআরটিসি কে লাভজনক করা সম্ভব বিআরটিসির ভাগ্য বদলানোর জন্য সরকার এই প্রতিষ্ঠানকে একটি জনবান্ধব সেবাবান্ধব প্রতিষ্ঠান হিসেবে দেখতে চায়
Roads and Highways Department Secretary Mohammad Nazrul Islam, BRTC Chairman Ehsan Elahi and other high officials were present. The railway is getting fresh locomotives, passenger coaches and freight wagons alongside infrastructural development under a master plan. The present government has introduced a total of 137 new trains and extended 46 existing routes. In order to strengthen the railways, a 30-year master plan worth 5,50,000 crore taka is being implemented. Once upon a time, there was severe shortage of locomotives, passenger coaches and freight wagons. But the scenario has changed in the past 12 years with the inclusion of fresh locomotives, passenger coaches, freight wagons, relief trains and simulators. Sources say inclusion of new locomotives, passenger coaches, wagons and relief cranes will give a new dimension to Bangladesh Railway. 28 COVID-19 patients died in the country in the last 24 hours, increasing the death toll from the pandemic to 6,350. The recovery count rose to 3,80,352 after 1,921 recovered during the period. A press release of the Directorate General of Health Services published this today. It said the tally of the infections surged to 4,45,281, with 1,847 new cases being confirmed. And now on to international news. The worldwide death toll from the corona pandemic has surpassed 13,80,000, while 5,80,73,000 people tested positive for COVID-19. Besides, 4,2,43,000 people have recovered from the virus so far. The worst corona-affected country, the USA's death tally surged to over 2,60,000, with 1,22,88,794 corona infections. Meanwhile, Pfizer, two Republican legislators pledged to follow normal process in validating the vote after a White House meeting. Donald Trump has had a fresh setback in his bid to overturn his loss in the U.S. election, as Michigan lawmakers indicated they will not seek to undo Joe Biden's projected win in the state. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden's narrow victory in the Georgia has been officially certified by Republican Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. It comes as legal efforts by Donald Trump's allies to challenge his defeat were dismissed in 3 other states. And now news on sports. CESC Fabregas scored a late winner from the penalty spot as Monaco came from 2 goals down to stun reigning champions Paris Saint-Germain PSG by 3-2 goals in French League last night. Kylian Mbappe had netted a first-half brace, including a penalty against his former side, taking him to 99 goals for PSG and leaving his current team seemingly on course for a 9th consecutive league win. But German international Kevin Volland struck twice for Monaco after the break, and Fabregas converted from 12 yards in the 84th minute after Abdou Diallo had been sent off for conceding the all-important penalty. PSG remained clear at the top of the League One, but this result is a major setback for Thomas Tuchel's team before a crucial Champions League tie against RB Leipzig next week. And before we end tonight's news, another look at the headlines. Bangladesh believes in peaceful coexistence but always ready to protect its sovereignty from any aggression, says Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in an address on the occasion of Armed Forces Day. President and Prime Minister paid tribute to members of armed forces who sacrificed their lives in liberation war. "38 span of Podda Bridge installed, making 5,700 meters of the bridge visible. All spans will be installed before Victory Day." Politics of vengeance not conducive to democracy, and Awami League never does so, says Obaidul Qadir. Government implementing 30-year master plan for modernizing Bangladesh Railway, costing 5.5 lakh crore taka. United Nations calls for ceasefire in Ethiopia. And more than 2 lakh people in the United States are newly infected with corona. Pfizer applies for approval of vaccine. And that's all from the newsroom for the moment. Our next news is at 11:30 in Bangla. Do join us again. Until then, Khuda Hafiz.